Dun, dun, dun. 13, released in 2013. And Geezer said, no, that's only a working title. And it wasn't. It was the actual album title. I think that's a great title because it's striking. It's like, where?
Is it their 13th album?
No. 19th album, studio album with Black Sabbath written on it, but actually their 20th, if you include the Heaven and Hell album. Terrible cover, great title, great album, I think. First full studio with Ozzy since 1978. This is the one after Never Say Die. You can't really think of it like that. I mean, what? First studio album since 95 anyway, of course, which was forbidden. So, you know, putting it in that context is important. You know, what were they doing with Ozzy? This is what people probably think they were doing with Ozzy. After all that experimentation and trying different things, most of the Ozzy era was experimentation and trying different things. Technically, you know, the first 3 albums were experimentation and trying different things because it was new. So, you know, Master of Reality was cutting edge, you know. This doesn't do that. This is Black Sabbath music. It's just good Black Sabbath music. That's not a bad thing, but it's also not a good thing. You know, it is Master of Reality 2. And that's pretty much what Ozzy was arguing for back in the day, that they should be doing that over and over again. I would imagine that's what the fans wanted as well, although not now, because the lovers of those 8 albums didn't get that, did they? It's all different stuff, so, you know. Great riffs. Killer riffs. Good, if limited, melodies. Great Geezer lyrics. You know, he's back. It's been a long time, you know. Last Geezer lot of lyrics was Cross Purposes, which I think was shared with Tony Martin, I think. So I think the point is, it is good enough to stand as the 9th Ozzy album, and probably the 7th good one, but it isn't as good as the first 6. You know, it's not Sabbath Bloody Sabbath or Master of Reality or something. I mean, come on. But it's still good enough. It's an excellent album. Now, usually old bands, you know, they made a good album this time. Wow, that's great. You know, this is their best album since X, you know, is always the way. Well done. Well, it's not that good, but it's quite good. And there's an element of that, but this is a level above that, I think. And I think that's partially why they went ahead with it. There's another thing about why they went ahead with it, actually. But they had a spark of inspiration which made something a tier above a good album by those old bands, you know, and that's good. So that it was a success, despite this childish naff.
I wonder if that actually shows up on the camera. I don't know.
It should do, shouldn't it? When it's just
different angles, you know, it's like the Wicker Man, something like that.
Mm.
I think you kind of. I think we're on the same page. I would say this is good enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, there's because of the situation they found themselves in. I don't think they were looking, or I don't think it was ever reasonable to assume that they were going to do the Rolling Stones and reform and tour forever and milk the cow.
Yeah, which they almost did. Yeah. I mean, really, they were doing that since '97 with a bit of a gap. Yeah, so that's not bad, really.
Yeah. So I think they had to treat this as the legacy album.
Yes.
This is it. This is the
last one.
That's Black Sabbath done, sort of thing.
Right. We don't want to end on Forbidden.
And I should imagine if it turned out awesome, they'd probably think, okay, well, we'll try another one.
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, it was refreshingly good when it came out. I remember being surprised.
Yes, thinking
actually how good it was.
Yeah.
But seeing as we've had it for a few years now, it's not. It's good, but it's not right.
It felt like it was going to have more longevity, and it kind of didn't. No. I don't know if I've not given it a chance, but I felt I was going to get to like it more, and it's just still the same.
I like the sort of advice they were getting. What was the producer said? Don't forget all that shit that's happened, Metallica and all that crap. Imagine that never happened.
Yes,
and just get back to where you were then. And it does sound like that. I mean, it's you know, it's not got that breakneck speed.
Yeah,
it's like heavy, but it plods in places. I find. I think it's sort of a kind of
It's so difficult to do Master of Reality
Yeah.
without it just going dun, dun, dun. Like all those thousands of bands that copied them.
Ozzy's obviously quite high in the mix.
Yeah.
Which he wasn't in the last one we did.
Because he's high in the pay as well, percentage.
Yeah. That was the other thing. They've got to be realistic. There is a truce, but how long is that going to last?
That's true.
Sort of thing,
yeah. Obviously, actually, they didn't quite succeed. They're missing
Well,
a member.
they obviously, they opened up a few holes. Oops. What the hell's that, Kev? Oh, you got sabotage in here.
Yeah, sabotage you. But because it's back on Vertigo. Back on Vertigo, so watch.
So yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
With good songs. They don't sound like a band on the way out.
No, they don't.
No, they sound like a band that's probably got more life in them, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, you're right. If it had been amazing, they would have made the next album, and the other next album would have been pretty good as well. But if that's the level they're at, that's the place to stop.
Yeah.
Because the next one would be all right, but not as good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there was a spark for some reason, probably through necessity. There was a spark just at that moment.
Yeah. This is a good end. This is a good legacy album.
The 20th.
Yeah.
It is the 20th. Yeah.
I mean, you look at sort of Led Zeppelin's last albums, including Coda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've kind of fixed that as well by putting the last track on the Coda remaster, of course, is the In the Light alternate version with the different vocals. So I like to think that's the end now. It's all right now.
Fixed.
13.
Yeah. So that's Black Sabbath.
And they're finished, yeah. That's we've reviewed all of Black Sabbath, haven't we? There aren't any other albums. I don't know, someone talked about something, that's not Black Sabbath. something, don't care. There's good albums as well. Somebody suggested it too, we're doing the Knave Sabbath albums, I don't know, maybe. There's 13 months in the year, with the 13th dodgy month. That's what it's all about. It's all about the moon and etc. You think about it, out of 20 albums, there's only one actual duffer. One of them's a mess with good stuff, and one is kind of a jarring combination, but really good. But apart from that, there's no, they didn't really
didn't make a terrible album.
Only one. There's only one that's actually bad. And that 20 albums over that length of time, with all the changes and all the problems, that's bloody good going. Like you said, Rick Rubin's input is really important. Now, he gets slagged off for the production because it's very compressed, and it's weird to hear Sabbath with those modern production files. You can still hear the clicking of Tony Iommi's plectrum, but with a brrr sound. And it's weird. That's just what metal bands sound like now. That's what heavy metal sounds like now. Blame and justice for all, because that. It's so influential and it was wrong. Sorry. There aren't many well-produced Sabbath albums, really, are there? I think Sabbath Bloody Sabbath sounds amazing. Mob Rules sounds big and shiny and everything. Dehumanizer, I think, sounds very good, although Tony doesn't like the sound of Dehumanizer, so who knows, But yeah, Rick Rubin recognised the need for Ozzy not to sing too high, to keep it low, because in the low register, he still sounds like Ozzy. 70s Ozzy, he can still do that same sound, whereas higher up he sounds like solo Ozzy voice, which is the thing, and that's really important to stop it just sounding like boring Iommi riffs with boring Ozzy, and I think that's a key to it. In the mid-90s, I used to know all the Sabbath chart placings in the UK, and Eternal Idol was the low point. It was like number 66, I think, something like that. Cross Purpose got to 39. I was like, oh, come on, And then Forbidden got to like 77 or something. It was like, oh, for God's sake. 13 was number 1. Probably sold about the same as Forbidden.
Yeah.
To get to 77, it gets number 1. But it was also number 1 in the US. In 1 week it sold 155,000. Second week it sold 46,000. That got it to number 1. That's a sign of the times, isn't it? I mean, bloody hell, that's not very much. But, it was number one, so, and they did try in 2001, and it just wasn't good enough. And the suggestion is that Tony Iommi was still coming up with the awesome riffs, and that they were really surprised how his creative process hadn't dimmed at all. He was just still making riffs. Come on, make the songs. And Ozzy and Geezer didn't really feel inspired. Geezer was struggling with lyrics. Ozzy wasn't coming up with melodies. They were probably feeling the way to the past, whereas Tony Iommi just carries on doing his thing, doesn't he? And I think basically Ozzy had to go and do his solo album, and they just stopped, and it wasn't worth going back to it. Basically, I think Ozzy did say, they can make an album easily, but it's not, unless it's going to be really good. It's not worth, unless it's that good. It's not worth doing. Otherwise, it's just more Black Sabbath, and they don't want to just keep making albums of more Black Sabbath. They don't need to do that. That's not where they're making their money. They're doing it because they love doing it. That's why they made an album, because they barely made a profit, I'd imagine, on the actual album if they just released the album on its own without touring. So then they went back to doing Ozfest appearances, blah blah blah. It did get a bit boring at that point. I think it was a bit, they're still going, And the highlight of that bit was when Rob Halford stood in again, because Ozzy was ill. It wasn't as good as in 1992, that's got to be said. The thing is, a lot of the later Ozzy stuff, really, after the first 3 albums, maybe first 4 albums, it gets really hard to sing, So Ozzy can't sing that stuff. So they were really limited in repertoire. I think that's, with Dio, he can sing all, just one semitone lower, age 60, he can still, in age 96, he could still, and then of course Dio sadly passed away with stomach cancer. Apparently he didn't look after himself at all. He had fry-ups every day and all things like this. That's just amazing that,
Yeah.
He just sounded a bit hoarse when he had stomach cancer. He's still going. Infinite voice. But because of that, that's got to have played a part in the thinking behind this. Remember, it was only 2011. It was 11. They made the big announcement when Bill was still there. And maybe it was kind of, we better hurry up if we're going to do it. So it must have been they all planned on doing it at some point. And that maybe inspired Ozzy and Geezer to get on with it, get it together, and let's do this.
But given that Ozzy couldn't sing some of the later stuff, doesn't it seem a little bit unfair to say to, was it Bill Ward, you can't
have the money?
Yeah,
I know. It's appalling, isn't it?
It is quite.
And everyone blames Sharon. Of course they do. But is it really Sharon? I don't. That explains everything, doesn't it? That from 1991 to 97 there was no reunion. They're trying to get a reunion together, and it turns out Sharon was saying, "Well, Ozzy has most of the money. You can have the rest between you, or not. Choose." And that was it. And there's nothing they can do. But because obviously a small share of all the money with Ozzy is still lots of money. So I think Sabbath just pretended to be carrying on and then ended up carrying on as a bargaining chip. That Sabbath, he was trying to get Sabbath a bit more cachet as a bargaining chip for that. And I think that's what it is, And Bill always supported Ozzy. This is the thing, in all his interviews and everything, he kind of refused to play with the band without Ozzy. He did Heaven and Hell and then left, and came back for Born Again, and then he left because he was drunk, and then he played with them briefly in '94 and persuaded Geezer to leave as well. So this isn't Black Sabbath, even with the 3 of them and a different singer. It's not Black Sabbath. And maybe Bill thought, well, there should be some sort of payoff now. I've sided with yours. Help me out here. Publicly, Ozzy is saying, no, it's not Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. It's just Black Sabbath. There's 4 of us equally, and of course it isn't. Ozzy gets like 90% or something. Everyone will blame Sharon, but bear in mind, Bill and Ozzy have permanently fallen out over this because of that loyalty thing. Whether Ozzy just defers to Sharon and it is Sharon, or I don't know. I'm always worried of just blaming Sharon for everything because that's what people do, And Bill was actually cropped out of the photos because they'd done all the publicity, and then he's not doing it.
It makes it quite a sour thing, doesn't it? Really,
it's ruined the whole thing. And with Bill on those songs, it would have been better. It's not the Bill of the 70s, but still, he still has his sound and that. Whereas you've got a very boring, obviously someone who's saying, it's like Chester Thompson in Genesis, don't have any personality, just do it, you know. And that does spoil it. And the live stuff as well, for me, really shows Bill's missing. It really does for me, you know. It's almost like they deliberately got him to do that. So maybe Bill will come back and then it'll be great, you know. And it never happened. And it's not only Bill that's missing. Jeff Nichols, of course. He was the keyboard player right from Heaven and Hell to Heaven and Hell, actually, the band. Because Jeff Nichols, of course, did a lot of interviews for that really good Never Say Die book about the lost years, about that period to 97. And revealed a lot of information that we didn't have. So I think he was sort of out of the loop. It was a bit of a betrayal because of that. So he's not involved either, interestingly. And they had like Adam Wakeman and all sorts of people on keyboards. Bloody good book though. Yeah, there are several albums called 13, including Blur, Blur called 13. There's 3 bonus tracks. Now, did you listen to the whole thing on Spotify all the way up to Pariah?
Yeah, it doesn't. And
that's going to ruin.
Yeah,
it's going to ruin the album. It's going to just turn into a load of songs for me. I mean, it's 8 tracks. I think they should have trimmed it even more, to be honest, because of the sameness. You know, problem is, what do you take out? I mean, I would take out "Live Forever," which I think is really meh. But I think they use that as a single. So what do I know? You know, and I love the way "Dear Father" ends with the rain from the first Black Sabbath. You know, that's the end. That's fantastic. Of course, you have just 3 more songs the same.
3 more songs.
Yeah. Ozzy wrote the lyrics to Methodemic, apparently. So he does write lyrics still. That's great, yeah. But yeah, rubbish cover. No change there. How many good Black Sabbath good covers are there? There's not many. There's about 4. It's 4.5 eggs. I'm going to give it 4.5 eggs.
It's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, it is.
It's not a 5 egg album.
It's above average album.
It's not a 4. Yeah, it's not a 4. Like I said, it's not. Oh yeah, the good old band is making a good album, so it's 4 eggs. It's above that, but it's not a 5 egg album. It's not amazing.
No, you're right. 4.5 eggs.
Yeah, and we've done Ozzy, Black Sabbath. There you go. So yeah, I mean, maybe one day when I've got time, busy, I might do Wenton Nave, the lost albums, the other albums, maybe, because some of them are very good and some of them are boring, but none of them. Only one of them is bad. Cheers.
Yeah, that's Black Sabbath done.